Good afternoon, everyone. You're now listening to Fulton County Exposed with your host, James Pitts, on BODradio.com. Again, you're listening to Fulton County Exposed with your host, James Pitts, on BODradio.com. And also, if you would like to call in on my show, the number here is 470-708-1833. Again, 470-708-1833. On today's show, I'm going to discuss some things that I pretty much have come to my attention concerning when an estate doesn't, or I would say when a person dies without a will. And also, too, I'm glad that I've started saying you need to start having family meetings, because I'm having people now come to me concerning when somebody doesn't have a will. And people, let me say this in the beginning as well, before I even begin. It doesn't matter about whether or not it's your mother or your father. You have brothers, you have sisters something may happen to one of them and they may have no children. So you're going to have to deal with that. And when they have no children, then that's where the next of kin comes in at, be it your mother, your father, or either one of you. So it's not always about just your mother and your father when it comes to an estate. Any person who passes away, whatever you have left, becomes your estate. And also, people, let me also be very frank with you. When you don't have a will, there are laws in every state that deals with an intestate estate. Intestate means you died leaving no will. Testate means you died leaving a will, like my late mother did. However, I'm going to say to you, when there is no will, I don't care how many heirs there are. Everybody can nominate yourselves to be a personal representative of that estate, or everybody who has an interest in the estate can nominate one person or two people. There is no law that says, only one person can be the personal representative of an intestate estate. Now, when you have a will, the testator, meaning the person who drafted that will, testator meaning man, testatrix means woman. They dictate who they want over their estate. That's why in most cases a will is so important, because when there is a will, everything that the person who drafted that will has already been spoken for. And the problem, as I've said many times before, the problem that I have with the Fulton County Probate Court, the previous probate court judge, who was trash and corrupt, was allowing the personal representative of the estates, whether you are appointed or not, to do whatever they wanted to do with a person's estate. And that's against the law. And I'm going to tell you all, you better stop allowing these judges to let you violate the law, because here's the problem with you. You're going to be the one holding the bag in the end. You're going to be the one liable. And let me also say, when there is no will, there is a petition for letters of administration you must draft and you must file. Within that petition for letters of administration, it basically asks questions as to how many, heirs of the estate there are, what the assets the person had. All that is handled within that petition for letters of administration. But the most important thing, before you start filling out anything, heirs of estates, when there is no will, make sure you know who you want to be the personal representative of an intestate estate. I don't care if it's your brother, your sister, or, like I'm going to say again, all of you can nominate yourselves to be the personal representative of that estate. There is no law, and I said that, and I'm not an attorney, don't have to be. I'm going to give all the legal advice I want. Like I've said before, I'm not concerned about the Fulton County District Attorney's Office at all. At all. Not with as much evidence I got on the Fulton County Probate Court and the DA's office concerning the corruption that they allowed to happen to my late mother's estate. I'm going to give all the legal advice that I want. And feel free to fact check anything that I say, people. See, as I told you, I learned estate law from a real probate attorney. So I'm not going to give you no lies at all. Anything I tell you is facts. And let me also say, when it comes to an intestate estate, do not, let me repeat, do not do anything with that deceased person's money, their property, and nothing else until you have been nominated by the rest of the heirs of the estate, and you have been appointed by the probate judge. If you do anything that is to the detriment of the deceased person, I don't care if it's your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, you're going to be liable. And you could be looking at criminal charges too. That just depends upon who's the district attorney, because the trash in Fulton County couldn't care less. And I said that, and anybody got a problem with it, they know my name and they know my address. Fonnie Willis, Sonia Allen. So, and for those of you who want to know, Sonia Allen is the corrupt deputy district attorney in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. And Sonia Allen, you know I met with you last year in April. I met with you and brought you evidence of corruption in the Fulton County Probate Court. I haven't heard from you. So when I say you're corrupt, you are. Anyway, back to what I was saying. When there is no will, make sure you all know how to get in contact with all the heirs of the estate. Because in this petition for letters of administration, you have to list these people, their current addresses, their current phone numbers. And see, people, when you draft a petition for letters of administration, there is two ways that it can be done. There's a legal term called common form and solemn form. And I strongly suggest you do the solemn form. Solemn form means that every single person, every heir of the estate will be personally served by the deputy or the sheriff of the county in which the deceased person lived and died. And even if the heirs of the estate all don't live in the same county, I don't care what county they live in, you need to make sure that that person is personally served. I don't care if they live out of town. I don't care if they live in DeKalb County. I don't care Gwinnett County. Every county has a sheriff's department. Pay that sheriff's service fee and make sure they get personally served with a copy of your petition for letter of administration. But now here we go. If everybody comes together and probably waive being personally served, you can legally do that too. However, I don't care who you all nominate. Everybody needs to be on the same accord. But when it comes to, I don't care if it's your mother, your deceased father, or brother, sister, whatever, I'm going to continue to say this again. Do not go in their bank account. Do not sell their property. Do not sell their car. If you have not raised your right hand to take the oath as the personal representative of that deceased person's estate, you better wait until you are nominated and appointed, because anything that you misappropriate and you use for your own benefit, you will be liable for double that. And then, of course, I'm going to say again, you could also be looking at criminal charges, because that's not your property to be doing that with. Make sure you understand that. When there is a will, that will determines what everybody gets. When there is a will, everybody is already determined who gets what. And let me say this to you personal representatives of estates where the deceased person died leaving a will. I don't care how you feel about your brother or your sister. Like I said several podcasts before, your mother or your father, to whomever nominated you to be their personal representative, don't you think they know that their daughter was a prostitute or a drug dealer or whatever, or she was a lazy woman that didn't work, whatever? If they said, I give, bequeath, and devise all my real and personal property to her, or she's added to that property, that house or that car belongs to her too. Or if they give it all to her, you need to give it to her. It is not your right, personal representative of an estate, to deprive anybody of what the deceased person said they are legally supposed to get upon that person's death. If you think I'm playing, like I'm going to tell you all, I'm already dealing with some trash right now in Clayton County. And I've been holding up on telling all about the court situation as of yet, because I want to wait till it's over. I'm going to show the public what can happen when you violate a will, regardless of all the corruption that went on in Fulton County. I got my mother's case in Clayton County now, thanks to the death of Edward R. Downs Jr. And this is going to be precedent, because I want you all to understand, whether there is a will or not, you do not have a right to steal from a deceased person. You do not have a right. I don't care if you are their children. I don't care if you are their cousin, their nephew. You do not have the legal right to deprive a deceased person of what they said somebody else was supposed to get. You don't have the right to do that. And see, you have lawyers, and I'm going to say it, and any lawyer you want to call on this show, 470-708-1833. Step up. I'm ready for you. You have some shade tree, dirty lawyers like Edward R. Downs Jr., who will get with a unappointed personal representative of an estate, go up in these banks, accessing a deceased person's bank account, stealing money, lying about where the money is at, like Edward R. Downs Jr. did. And next thing you know, here we are. Here we are. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot go in a deceased person's bank account and remove their money with a petition to probate their will in solemn form. That is against the law, like Edward R. Downs Jr. did my late mother's bank account. Personal representatives, when there is no will, once you are appointed by the probate court, you get letters of administration. When there is a will and you are appointed by the probate court judge, you get letters testamentary. When you get those documents that says to the world that you are the personal representative of an estate, then you have the authority to go to the bank, access the bank account, go to the safety deposit box. But see, here's the problem, people. When you are first appointed, you have 6 months of protection, meaning you don't have to do anything for that estate. That's statutory. You don't legally have to go to no bank. You don't have to pay no bills as of yet. You have 6 months of protection under the law in Georgia. You don't have to even speak to the beneficiaries of the estate when you are appointed, or the heirs of the estate when you have become appointed. But I'm going to tell you right now, after your 6 months of protection, then you need to start, because I'm going to say this, within those 6 months when you don't legally have to do anything, you need to assess the estate. You need to find out what's going on. You do need to cooperate, and you do need to be in communication with the people who are interested in that estate. And you don't need to be self-dealing, and you don't need to be lying to them like Edward R. Downs Jr. did in my late mother's estate and my cousin James Boyd Wilburn. Because you're going to be liable for whatever you do. And if you let these shady judges like Pinky Toomer and Kenya Johnson think that because you're a lawyer, you're going to get away with it. Because see, if you deal with somebody like James Pitts, who don't back down from no trash can judge or no trash can prosecutor, no trash can police officer, you better believe I'm going to be on you. I'm going to be on you. And there are people just like me who are not going to back down. And I'm going to tell you, heirs of estates and beneficiaries of estates, do not get into any trouble with anybody. Stay out of trouble. You don't need to resort to violence or anything else when you're dealing with your parents' estates. Because when there is a will, that will prevails. I'm telling you that a will prevail. And that's the main reason why I'm going to use my late mother's case to show the public just what can happen to a person like Edward R. Downs Jr. and my cousin when you start stealing, filing false documents, and making false statements in estates. And just because a trash can judge like Pinky Toomer, probate court judge, former, and this new trash, Kenya Johnson, trying to keep James Pitts out of court because you don't want to reverse what that trash did before. However, you got to understand, there is no reason why you need to sit back and allow these people to violate your late parents or anybody else in the estate. Don't allow it. Do not allow it. Because at the end of the day, people, what your parents left for you is yours. And let me also say, when there is no will, all the property, all the assets automatically vest into the heirs. But that doesn't mean you automatically own it, people, because there may be debts upon the estate or whatever. See, when there is a will, that will tells the personal representative what to do with the debt. But when there is no will, then of course, and also, people, when let's just say there is debt upon the estate and there is no will, any heir of the estate can pay the debts of the estate and become a creditor of the estate. Don't let no trash can judge or no personal representative tell you otherwise. If you have enough money to pay the debts of the estate, you have the legal right to pay the debts of the estate, but you will become a creditor to the estate. You may say, oh, I'll pay the debts of the estate. I don't need to be a creditor. You have that right. You don't have to. You can say to the personal representative or to the court, I don't want to be reimbursed. That was my mother. That was my father. You don't have to be reimbursed. You can say to the personal representative, I don't want to be reimbursed. But see, if you pay all the debts of the estate, heirs of the estate, or even beneficiaries of the estate, you don't have to worry about nothing being sold. And see, also personal representatives, let me tell you right off the bat, and I'm getting ready to prove this coming up after my case is done. When that will doesn't give you the authority to sell estate property or anything else, you don't have that right to do that. That will gives you the authority to sell estate property, because when that will says, I direct my personal representative to sell all my real and personal property, or either just a certain asset of the estate without any orders of the court, that means you don't have to file no report with the court, and you don't need permission from the judge or the heirs, or the beneficiaries to sell that. All you have to do is put it in the legal newspaper for 4 weeks, once a week for 4 weeks before your sale. And you can notify the beneficiaries, on this particular date, I'm selling a certain asset that the will gave me the authority to sell. But when there is no will, if you want to sell estate property, you need to get permission from the judge. And then also too, even the heirs have a right to say, we don't need you to sell that. Because whatever is owed, whatever debts are owed, they can pay it. There is no legal requirement that estate property has to be sold to pay no debts, especially if one of the heirs or more can pay the debts of the estate. See, one thing I've come to find out in Fulton County, it's all about selling. See, that's the new gentrification. In Fulton County, that's all these trash can judges want these people to do. They want to deprive the heirs of the estate or the beneficiaries of the estate by selling estate property. And that is against the law. When there is a will, that will determines where the house goes. That will determines where a car goes, where the money in the bank goes. That's what that will is for. And I'm going to tell you all, you need to stay out your parents' bank accounts after they pass away, and you don't have the authority to be in that bank account. Because, again, you could be looking at going to jail. You better stop letting these judges, these trash can, shady, corrupt judges like what's in Fulton County, allowing you to violate the law. Because, see, eventually they're going to either be voted out or they're going to allegedly retire from the bench because they know they're corrupt and they're getting called out by a person like James Pitts, Pinky Toomer, Christopher Brasher. Trash. You all sit back and you know you have violated the law. And I'm going to certainly be showing these documents to the public. I want the world to see just how corrupt the Fulton County Probate Court is and how long it has been corrupt. When you have people passing away every day, and there are a lot of people that don't have a will. I mean, just look at the rapper Takeoff. I've had people ask me, James, I know you're not an attorney, but but you know a state law, what you think is going to happen? I'm going to tell you what I know is going to happen. His father wants a part of his estate, but his father's not legally entitled to his estate. His father is not legally entitled to his estate. Now, if it'd be different if Takeoff had a will and he made sure his father was taken care of, but legally, his mother is going to inherit his estate. And if he has any children, his children comes before his mother. And see, in a situation where he had children, they're going to have to be determined that they are even his children before they can inherit his estate. Either by him signing a birth certificate or some type of an agreement or a legal contract that Takeoff signed and said, okay, this is my child, or he has shown to the world he's provided for this child. Those things have to happen. It is very important, people. If you don't, one thing I'm going to say also too. Yes, it is important to have a will. And I refuse to allow what unlawfully happened in my late mother's estate, as well as the late Johnny Burke Sr.'s estate and the late Miss Nancy Clifton. These are two other estates that I'm aware of that I'm going to bring public soon. Because the late Johnny Burke Sr., he had a will too. And Pinky Toomer allowed his estate property to be sold. Well, I tell you one thing, I blocked that. I said I blocked that. And anybody got a problem with it, they already know. I drafted affidavits for Michael Burke, and I had them, and he and I went to the Deeds and Records Division in the Fulton County Courthouse, and he filed them to block the title of that property. The person who bought this house illegally can't sell it. Only thing he can, and there's nobody even living in that house today. And my goal coming up is to have I already have lawyers on standby. I'm going to have a quiet title action drafted against that property to take it back. And I'm going to go after the executrix of his estate. And I'm also going to seek criminal charges against her. Even though I don't have an interest in the estate, I knew the late Johnny Burke Sr. And I don't appreciate his will being violated with the help of the Fulton County Probate Court and the Fulton County Superior Court. And every judge that has something to unlawfully do with it, I'm going to publicly name them because they need to be removed from the bench. They did what not even the Supreme Court of Georgia said they had the legal right to do. People, let me tell you what the Supreme Court of Georgia says about a will. We have no power to devise a new scheme or to create a new will of the decedent or the testator. Testator meaning a man. Testatrix means a woman. So if they can't change the items of a will to make it fit their narrative, how do you think you can do it? And I'm going to also say, I've spoken to you all and I've read case law concerning the family harmony doctrine in Georgia. Now, if you want, let's just say your parents left it may be 4 or 5 of you. This is when you have a will. I want to give you an example of the family harmony doctrine. Family harmony means, okay, to keep the litigation down, have everybody, being family, nobody going to court, nobody fussing and fighting over estate property. Okay. Your mother or your father may say, I give, bequeath, and devise my house located at so-and-so, Atlanta, Georgia, to my daughter. Okay. Well, the daughter may say, thank you, mama, or thank you, daddy, but I want the rest of my brothers and sisters to own the house. Now, if she goes to the rest of the brothers and sisters and say, hey, you all want to own this house with me or not? And she doesn't legally have to do that because your mother or your father already said who owns that house. So she doesn't have to do that at all. She can take possession of that house. But anyway, I'm just trying to show you what the family harmony doctrine looks like. The rest, it may be one more brother or one more sister may say, yeah, I would like to own a house with you. Guess what? That house, she can legally go to the personal representative and say, draft the deed, an executor's deed or an executrix deed, sending the house over to me and to my brother or to my sister, deeding the house over to me as well as my brother. You don't need the court's permission. You don't need the court's permission. Any agreements between beneficiaries is binding on all the beneficiaries, just like with heirs. Any agreements between the heirs, it can be 1 or 2. You don't need the other heirs' permission. Let's just say you may say, I don't want any of the estate. You have a legal right to disinherit yourself. Even if there is a will, you have the legal right to disinherit yourself. How do you disinherit yourself? You have to draft an affidavit, get a copy of the death certificate, and basically state that you disinherit yourself, or you don't want to have. There is no true statutory form. You just letting the court know, or the personal representative know, you do not want any of the assets of the estate. You want to disinherit. You can just say, I so and so disinherit myself from the estate of so and so, and you can get it notarized, get it witnessed, and file it with the personal representative of the estate. And once you do that, you're not liable for anything. You ain't got to pay no bill. Anything concerning your parents' estate, you're not liable for. Nothing. But see, again, you need to understand, when there is no will, you must file a petition for letters of administration, especially if that deceased person has a house. Because see, that's what the wills is for too. See, estates deal with property. Now, if they have a certain amount of money in the bank, there's affidavits. You can go to the bank and get a copy of. Well, the personal representative can do that. They can get an affidavit, get it notarized to access the decedent's bank account. It's a simple process. And see, again, I'm going to continue to tell you all, after having people come to me and ask me about that, when there is no will, I'm telling you publicly, when there is a house involved, cars involved, money in the bank, I don't care what anybody say. Do not, and I repeat, do not go in that deceased person's bank account. Don't use their bank cards. Don't do nothing to the detriment of them. Now, it's one thing if you have access to their money, you use all of their money to their benefit. But by the same token, I'm still going to say the most important thing is that deceased person making sure they get buried. That is the most important thing. But other than that, and if you don't have the money to do that or whatever, and somebody steps in, one of the brothers or sisters or whoever pays for the funeral, they are legally entitled to reimbursement from the estate, as well as from the heirs of the other heirs of the estate when there is no will. When there's a will and there's insurance involved, whoever the beneficiary of that insurance policy is, they can do with that insurance money what they want. Let me say that again. When there is an insurance policy, whoever the beneficiary of that insurance policy is, they have the legal right to do with that money what they want. I said that. And the funeral homes people, they're going to want to speak to the beneficiary of that insurance policy, not you. Because you don't have no authority over that check. They do. The beneficiary of that insurance policy. They have the right to say how this deceased person is to be buried or in everything else. Now, if they want to involve you or get your opinion, they can, but they're not legally required to. And how do I know this? Like I told you all about 2 podcasts ago, when my mother passed away, she had insurance. My older brother was the beneficiary. I already knew that. I knew that from many years. Many years. I knew that. I never had a problem with it. But see, guess what, people? When I went to Knox Funeral Home on Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway with that insurance policy, and I gave it to Mr. Knox. See, I never been to any of my family members' funerals. I don't do funerals. When it came to my late mother, I just went to her wake and then luckily I just kept it at the wake because I was already under the suspicion that my cousin had been stealing from my mother. So it was best that I not show up at the funeral because it probably was going to be another funeral after that. Had I got my mother's bank statements before she was buried. However, that Mr. Knox wanted to speak to my older brother because he said, Mr. Pitts, you're not the beneficiary of your mother's insurance policy. You or your other brother, but Gregory Pitts is. So I had to get in contact with my older brother. He had to come to the funeral home. He was the one that made what color it was, casket, everything my mother wanted. He had that right to make those decisions. But here's the caveat to that though. because there was no death certificate, the insurance company did not pay out right away. They didn't have any money, but I did to bury my mother. So I told Mr. Knox, I'm not worried about that. My mother's going to be buried. She wanted to be buried in Lincoln Cemetery. And I said, of course, I never have liked Lincoln Cemetery, but that's what my mother wanted. But my mother always said, whatever determination I wanted to make, I could make it. And that's what I did. When Mr. Knox told me about Mount Harmony Memorial Gardens, he showed me this beautiful cemetery in Mableton. I wanted to bury my mother under a cherry tree, but my younger brother said, I know I don't have no money. Can we bury mom on the hillside? Me trying to be brotherly and family, because I was already hot with my cousin. I'm serious. You just don't know how I felt at that time about my cousin. So I still tried to stay within the family of my two brothers. So I said, okay, fine. So at that time, my brother was married at the time. His wife, she said, I know that, you never really dealt with funerals before. Your mother always told me that you never really dealt with funerals. She said, if I can I help you with this? Can I walk you through this? I said, yeah. So we went to Mount Harmony Memorial Gardens, and my brother picked out a place where my mother was to be buried on the hillside. And I paid for it with my money. Not the personal representative of the estate, not my older brother, but me. And I'm going to tell you why. Because there was no insurance check at that time. Because there was no death certificate. And people, let me say this to you. And when I started learning estate law, the probate attorney who taught me estate law said, Mr. Pitts, he said, there's no death certificate. And you all may need to write this down. When there is no death certificate, you can get a notice of death. Contact the medical examiner's office. Ask for a notice of death. It's almost like a death certificate. It proves that that person is deceased, what date they died, and where they are currently at. And you can send that to the insurance company and they will cut the check. That's what you can either, the medical examiner, they'll fax it to you or they'll mail it to you. I suggest if you have a fax machine, ask them to fax it to you. Or if you go to Kinko's and you get Kinko's phone number, like their fax number, they'll fax it to Kinko's, like what happened in my case. Then from there, I turned right around and faxed the notice of death to the insurance company. And next thing you know, they cut a check, sent it to Knox Funeral Home. Knox Funeral Home took out whatever they were going to take out. My older brother got the rest of the money. I had already paid for my mother's burial plot with my money. My older brother asked me, does he have to reimburse me? I said, you don't have to reimburse me. I said, she was your mother too. He was so concerned about getting the money. I didn't care. As long as whether my mother had insurance or not, my mother was going to be buried. It wasn't going to be no GoFundMe's over here. I don't take nothing from nobody who needs GoFundMe or whatever. But by the same token, I personally feel I don't need GoFundMe to put somebody I love in the ground. Not at all. I'm just not doing that. But again, when there is no death certificate, contact the medical. I don't care what county you are in Georgia. Matter of fact, it may be like that in other states too. But a notice of death is like a death certificate. And they will immediately fax it to you or mail it to you. And you can use that to send to the insurance company to get the insurance check. And people, the insurance company is going to send that check either to the funeral home or to the beneficiary of that insurance policy. If you're not the beneficiary or you're not the funeral home, don't waste your time. Because they don't care about you being that person's sister, that person's brother, their daughter, or their son. If you are not the beneficiary of that insurance policy, you're not going to get that check. And if you get a check that's not in your name, and if you forge that check and you cash that check and you use that check for your own benefit, you could be looking at some criminal charges. So don't play the game, people. And let me also say this too. If your mother or your father is getting Social Security, listen to me and listen to me good. If your late mother or your late father, before they passed, was getting Social Security, I don't care what kind of SSI they were getting. You need to, you don't legally have to be the personal representative either. Because see, what I did in my mother's case, my mother was getting Social Security. However, let me tell you all what I found interesting. I also contacted the Social Security Administration about this, and they did not like what I had to tell them. And they did an investigation, and they fired the person who told me this. My mother was getting direct deposit. When my mother passed away, and I found out that she had got a certain amount of money to her account before she died, and it was a large sum of money, I contacted Social Security, and I asked them to take that money back. I asked them to take the money back because they had sent the money after she died. After, not before, but after she died. People, any money that comes into your parents' estate from the Social Security Administration after their death, you better send it back. There's one thing if it comes before their death. That becomes a part of your parents' estate. But anything that comes, like let's just say a check comes next month to that account, you better not use that money. You better send that money back. And it's best that you contact the Social Security Administration and notify them that your mother or your father is now deceased and make a record of it. Do not be spending Social Security checks that you have no legal authority to be spending. Let me tell you what happened in my case. When I contacted the Social Security Administration, my mother died on March 19, 2008. I contacted the Social Security Administration on the morning. Matter of fact, I take that back. I contacted the Social Security Administration the next morning, which was the 20th of March, to let them know she was deceased. And I told them, I said, if any checks or that you all have sent her before her, after her death, or even before her death, to take it back. Come to find out, she got some money before her death. That was fine. That's the money that my cousin and Edward R. Downs Jr. stole. However, then other money was supposed to be coming to her account. Luckily, they blocked that. And I told them, she's deceased. However, before I found out that the money that my mother got before her death, this person that works for the Social Security Administration going to tell me, oh no, we don't do that. We don't do that. I said, do what? Oh, I mean, we don't just take money back. I said, it's not. I said, first and foremost, I said, my mother's deceased. So next thing I know, after the fact, because I'm like, any money that comes after her death, it doesn't need to come to her from Social Security. She's deceased. She tells me again, oh no, we're still going to send a check. I said, no, you're not. I said, let me speak with a supervisor. So the supervisor gets on the phone and says to me, Mr. Pitts, you're correct. We thank you for letting us know that your mother's deceased. We won't be sending a check next month. And he said, I'll deal with the employee who told you that, because you are correct. We're not supposed to send an additional check if you have notified us to let us know your mother or your father is deceased. We will automatic. And then next thing you know, I got a letter in the mail stating that her check had been cut off. And she didn't get a check for next month. But when you have people who works for the Social Security Administration telling you they're still going to cut checks, despite the fact you have let Social Security know that your mother or your father is deceased, I'm telling you, people, don't spend those checks. Do not spend those checks, because once the Social Security Administration is notified that your mother or your father or your brother or whoever else that you are related to is deceased, and they keep sending checks to that person's, I don't care if it's direct deposit or by UPS mail or United States Postal Service. If you spend their money and they come to find out later that those checks were getting cashed, you're going to get picked up. You're going to get arrested. You will be arrested. Don't play with these checks, people. That's not your money. That's why me handling my late mother's estate case is so important to me, because I want the public to see just what can happen when you violate a deceased person's estate, regardless of the fact that my mother had a will. I want the public to see this. This is going to be public because, as I told you, I'm going to bring awareness to the corruption in the Fulton County Probate Court, the Fulton County Superior Court, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office as well, and the Fulton County Commissioners. They're corrupt too, just like the city of Atlanta in regards to the Atlanta Police Department, because I filed police reports, as I told you all, reporting theft in my late mother's estate. And they didn't want to even do an investigation. And then come to find out later on when Vincent Moore, he's now retired. That trash is retired now. To find out you had a conversation with this man and you asked him pertinent questions and you never told me about it. Only to find out when I got my late mother's bank statements on my own, everything he told you was a lie. It was grounds for him to be arrested as well as disbarred, which he's about to be disbarred coming up. People, I don't care what kind of lawyer you get and personal representatives. Let me say this to you directly. A lawyer, I don't care what lawyer you get. You need to get a probate attorney or an estate attorney, which is the same thing. A probate attorney is only supposed to give legal advice. That's all that lawyer is supposed to do. That lawyer don't represent the heirs of the estate or the beneficiaries of the estate. I don't have to take no orders from your lawyer. Like I told Edward R. Downs Jr., you don't represent my mother or my brothers and I. You can't tell me nothing. I don't have to take orders from you. You represent my cousin. A lawyer is only supposed to give legal advice. That's it. They can draft documents and they can file documents on the deceased person's estate for the personal representative. But them acting like they are the executor or the executors of the estate is prohibited. They have no right to be acting like they are the executor of the estate. They have no right to do that. No right to do that. They don't represent you. If your mother or your father did not put that lawyer's name in that estate, in their will, to be the personal representative, you don't have to listen to them. It ain't a judge in Georgia can make me listen to no lawyer that my mother or my father didn't put in their will to be the personal representative. And that's the one thing I want to tell you all. And all you heirs, when there is no will, let me say this to you. All that infighting, all that arguing about what your mama said and what your daddy said, you better cut it out. That's why I've said time and time again, you need to have family meetings. You need to have family meetings. Because at the end of the day, people, all that arguing and fighting, going back and forth with each other, you're going to end up with nothing. Because guess who's going to end up with everything your mama and your daddy had, or your mama had, or your daddy had? Lawyers. And then you're going to mess around and depending on what you do, you could also end up being disinherited too. You better learn to get together and come together. Because what you're fighting over wasn't yours when your mother was alive or your daddy was alive. You didn't buy it. I don't care if you might have paid a few little bills on it, whatever, but it wasn't yours at the time. So all this about what I know my mama wouldn't have said this, and I know my mama didn't want you to have that. Unless there was a will, I'm gonna tell you right now, you need to stay out your mama's business. Don't put your mama name. That's one thing I didn't do with my mother. My mother's will speaks for itself. My daddy didn't have a will. As I told you all, when it came to my daddy turned around and my daddy sold all his stuff before he died. My daddy said he wasn't studying about no will. He said he don't want nobody fighting over none of his stuff. My dad had several houses, several cars. He sold his own stuff, and he had the legal right to do that. And he told my brothers and I, he said, I'm going to give you what I want you to have. If you don't want it, let me know, because I can give it to somebody else who will appreciate it. And that's exactly how my father felt. And you know what? I had nothing bad to say because it was his. One thing I didn't do with my mother and father, I'm not going to argue with them about what's theirs. That's something I wasn't going to do. And I'm going to say to each and every last one of you, you better not do it either. Because, see, I'm telling you people, you go telling let's just say your mother has a will or your daddy has a will. And you go telling him, oh, I'm not going to make sure this person get this, or I don't like that you giving this person that. Well, if they go back to their lawyer and revise that will and take you out of it, or they put in that will in the event that you go against the terms of their will, you will be disinherited. I promise you, you will be. You don't get to tell your parents what they better not give somebody else. That's something I didn't do with my mother, period. My mother used to ask me on a regular basis, have you read my will? She gave me a copy of her will in December of 2005. She would ask me almost every other month, have you read my will? Have you read my will? And I lied to her. I said, yeah, I read it. I'm fine with it. I read the first page of it, but I didn't read her whole will because my mother was one of those types of women. You ain't gonna tell my mother was one of them type of women. Her children were not gonna tell her what she better do. No, not my mother. She wasn't that type of woman. See, my mother would have went back to her lawyer and changed that will and made sure you were not going to do what you want to do with her will. So I'm telling all of you, whether you have a will or not, the most important thing is the families better come together because people are dying every day. Look at this mess. People are dying every single day. And the last thing you want to be dealing with is a corrupt judge sitting on a bench, allowing your parents to be basically disrespected and deprived by the person that's been nominated and appointed by the court, even if they have not been appointed. Because as I told you all, when my cousin and Edward R. Downs Jr. started stealing from my mother and he wasn't even appointed yet. He wasn't even appointed when he started with Edward R. Downs Jr. I cannot wait to make the documents public after I'm done in Clayton County. And people, I've had some of you to ask me again about how did I get my mother's case in Clayton County, even though the Fulton County Probate Court and the Fulton County Superior Court didn't hear my motion or rule on my motion. That's the reason why I'm going to sue the Fulton County Probate Court coming up too. But let me tell you what I did. I didn't even know that Edward R. Downs Jr. was deceased. Let me give you all a backstory for any new people who may be listening to my podcast for the first time. When my mother died in March 19, 2008, when I tell you I never took a day off, I've always stuck on my mother's case. I always tried to make sure my mother's case was cleared up. However, in January, I would say the first time I filed a petition to probate, not probate her will in silent form, but a petition for settlement of accounts. Okay, I filed the first one in 2016. Never got a court date. That's when I got unlawfully arrested in February 2017. I beat the case. I sure did. Because I never did nothing. However, after my case was dismissed in my favor on June 26, 2018, I went right back to handling my mother's case again. Well, anyway, I filed another petition for the settlement of accounts in January of 2021. Kenya Johnson was the new probate court judge because that trash Pinky Toomer, she stepped down the year previous. However, Kenya Johnson and I had Facebook conversation with her, and I'm going to make those messages public too coming up. She told me she was going to get me a hearing, and she never did. And Kenya Johnson, yes, I still have those messages. I'm going to make them public. I'm going to add them to my lawsuit too. However, people from January all the way through never got a court date. Kenya Johnson recused herself using information that I gave her concerning my unlawful arrest in 2017. And she also recused herself against the law. Then my case went to Christopher Brasher, that trash that used to be the chief judge of Fulton County that retired last year. However, this man allegedly, and I'm going to say allegedly because he didn't do it, he sent my mother's case to a Cobb County judge by the name of G. Grant Brantley. Now, people, you may not believe me, but I can prove it, and I do have the documents to prove it. This trash in Cobb County, G. Grant Brantley, a senior superior court judge, started emailing me. Did you hear what I said? I thought it was a scammer at first. Emailed me introduced himself to me in an email and said to me that, who he told me who he was. And then he lets me know that he wants to know who does he need to serve. And then, don't argue your case in the email because it's like he telling me I don't even accept arguments in emails, but just let me know who I need to serve. Now, people, as I told you, I'm very legally educated. I said, okay, this is a lawsuit waiting to happen because I already knew that a Superior Court judge lacks subject matter jurisdiction to hear any cases from the probate court concerning the petition for settlements of account. I said, okay, I'm going to play this game right along with him. I told him who he needs to serve. And it was Edward R. Downs Jr. I wasn't concerned about my cousin because, like I tell you people, if my cousin didn't hire this trash that's now dead, I'd be dealing with my cousin. But because you put a lawyer in my presence using my mother's money, yeah, I want the lawyer. And I have a legal right to do that. Well, people still didn't get a court date. And then as months go by, I'm calling the Cobb County Courthouse. The people told me, they said, Mr. Pitts, we don't have a case number for your mother's case. I said, what? I already knew that it was a scam anyway. I even gave them my mother's estate number. I asked them, I said, well, here's my mother's estate number. I said, because I was told by G. Grant Brantley that my mother, that the record was transferred to the Cobb County Court. They said, Mr. Pitts, we don't have a record of that. I said, okay, good. That's when I said, okay, let me amp this up a little bit more. I started calling the staff attorneys for G. Grant Brantley. Want to know about this court date. When I start threatening to sue people on a Sunday night at 9:00, I want to make sure you hear what I'm saying. I got an email from G. Grant Brantley on a Sunday night at 9:00. When did we start having court on the weekend? Through email. He sent an order to me, ordering my mother's case to be closed, her estate to be closed. But you can't do that. And like I told and that's when I emailed him back and told him, you have no jurisdiction to do that. He blocked me. It didn't stop nothing though, because you don't have jurisdiction to tell anybody in Fulton County to do nothing concerning my late mother's case. So from that time forward, I found out just this past February of this year, thank you to Tasha Mosley, the Clayton County District Attorney, because I emailed her first because I wanted her to be in court when I get my mother's case transferred to Clayton County. When she told me, she said, Mr. Pitts, she said, I don't have jurisdiction over your mother's case because it's a Fulton County probate court case. She said, also, Edward R. Downs Jr. is deceased. She let me know he was deceased. So you mean to tell me, had it not been for me emailing Tasha Mosley, I would have never known that Edward R. Downs Jr. was deceased. Everybody, you heard what I said previously. I filed my petition for the settlement of accounts in January of 2021. Well, Edward R. Downs Jr. died in September of 2021. Now, you did hear me say that Kenya Johnson recused herself. She did that around August of 2021. Then she sent my mother's case to that trash that retired, Christopher Brasher. He so allegedly sent my mother's case to Cobb County in September, a month after this man died. October of 2021, a month after this man died. Now, you mean to tell me the Fulton County Probate Court, the Fulton County Superior Court didn't know about that about this man being dead? See, I'm telling you, I want you all to understand all this. Don't have no infighting. I don't care if you have a will or not, because it's enough corruption going on in the courthouse. And the main thing I want to do coming up is expose all the corruption, because whether you have a will or not is beside the point as far as I'm concerned. What I don't want you heirs of estates to do is to be arguing and fussing and fighting with each other. You need to keep your attention on the person who's been nominated and appointed, because that's where the corruption is going to be. And you need to make sure you know who the judge is too. Because my goal, people, is to create a legal team to go after corrupt judges and corrupt lawyers and corrupt personal representative of estates. I don't care how much money I win coming up. I'm going to create my own legal team to go after corrupt judges in probate courts, in superior courts, magistrate court. That go for police officers too. When you file a police report reporting theft or suspected theft, a police officer or a detective is supposed to investigate your police reports and get back with you to let you know what's going on. And even if they have spoken to this person you believe has stolen from your parents' estate, whatever they said to that police officer, you have a legal right to be informed about that. That's something that didn't happen in my mother's case. And I'm going to show that publicly too. See, had Vincent Moore contacted James Pitts in February 2013 and let me know that he either met with this man or contacted this man by phone and asked him the questions about money that was in my mother's estate that he stole along with my cousin, I could have said, get my mother's bank statements. And out of all of the years, people, until I got my mother's bank statements, nobody would get them. That goes for Paul Howard too. I even met with him in January 2013. Nobody got my mother's bank statements. But see, thankfully to me, learning estate law, I read case law. And I got my mother's bank statements. And that's something nobody can take from me. I'm not worried about Fonnie Willis at all. When I tell you I'm going to give all the legal advice that I want, I'm going to speak about my story. And I'm going to give all the legal advice that I want. For sure. I have documents with her email address on it, reporting corruption in the probate court of Fulton County. When I can go and meet with a deputy district attorney just last year in April and never hear from her again, and took her evidence, people, and never hear from her again, I'm not worried about Fonnie Willis. I'm not worried about her. I'm going to give all the legal advice that I want, when I want, how I want, as long as it's factual. Because if they didn't want me doing what I'm doing, that's the purpose of me creating this podcast, is to expose corruption. Because your shade tree media, like Channel 2, Channel 5, 11, and 46, and 69, all of them refuse to do my story. You heard what I said? They all refuse to do my story. You know why? Because they are as corrupt as the courts. See, they have relationships with these people. They pick and choose who they go after. Don't get it twisted, people. The media is as corrupt as a day is long. But you see how they treat Donald Trump. And I don't care nothing about Donald Trump either, but I'm going to use him as an example. And I don't care who don't like it. They use that man's name day in and day out. They follow that man's every word. But when I contact the media talking about a lawyer filing false documents, making false statements, stealing, and the police involved, the courts involved, nobody has nothing to say. Nobody has a thing to say. No story's done. So I said, okay, I tell you what, I'm going to create my own media, create this podcast. And soon I'm going to go public too. I'm going to start having public forums. The most important thing I want you heirs of estates to know is that you need to make sure that you all have some real conversations, family meetings, period. Not just with your parents. You need to start having family meetings with each other too. Because in the event something happens to one of you, whether you have children or not, people need to know where are the legal papers at, where are all your important papers. People, you need to do like what my mother did. Get you one of these a big Tupperware container, and put your personal, like your important papers in. I don't care if you have a safe or whatever. And if your parents have a will, everybody needs to have a copy of it. Everybody needs to have a copy of it. Nobody needs to be trying to figure out, well, where's mama's will at? And there is no legal requirement in Georgia that your parents have to file a copy of their will in the probate court in any county in Georgia. There is no legal requirement. They can legally draft a will and give you a copy of it, and that's that. But whoever has a copy of the will and whoever that person has nominated to be the executor or the executrix, better yet, the personal representative of the estate, it is your responsibility to file that will with the probate court and open up an estate. That is your responsibility. You cannot hold on to a copy of a will and not file it. You must file that will with the probate court to open up an estate case on the deceased. If you don't do that, you could be looking at criminal charges. It's very important that communication be had. It's very important. And I said before, if you have family meetings, you need to record those family meetings. And everybody needs to have a copy of those recordings too. Unedited recordings of that family meeting. Any questions you all have about what your mother said in her will or what your daddy said in the will, if you got an issue about that, that needs to be addressed in that family meeting. And record that family meeting too. And everybody needs to have a copy of it. And for those of you who record these family meetings, since y'all like recording everything else, you record everybody else's business when you're out in the public, record your own family meetings because they can be used in court too. Just like they use recordings when you go break in somebody's store or you rob somebody or you shoot and kill somebody. That same recording of your family meeting can be used in court because that's unedited. The judge can see it, and you can also have jury trials in the probate court, people. You legally can, but let me say, well, when it comes to a jury trial in the probate court, you got to request that in the beginning, not after the fact. You always got to request a jury trial in the beginning, not after the fact. Now, when you record these family meetings, you need to send a copy of it to your email address too, and you need to date it. Because in the event something happens to your phone, at least you can say, I have it on my email address. And there's a section on you. I don't care if you have Hotmail, Yahoo, Gmail, AOL, you can put those recordings in your archives. Because you never know. You might lose your phone one day. Something might happen to it. Something as important as a family meeting being recorded, it needs to be put up. And people, if you got questions, you need to ask them in front of everybody, not behind the rest of the heirs back or the beneficiaries back. You need to ask all your questions in front of everybody. Because, like I'm going to say again, all this after somebody died, first thing something you want to do, you want to start talking about what your mother your mama didn't want this person to have this, and your mama didn't want that, so your daddy didn't want that. You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing. You think you know. That's you talking. That's not your mother talking. That's not your daddy talking. That's you talking. And that's the problem. That's you talking. That's the problem. Stop putting words in your mama mouth, in your daddy mouth after they die. If you don't have a will that says that, you need to stop putting words in your parents' mouth because it's not going to stand up in court anyway because it's hearsay. You don't get to speak for the deceased. That's what a will is for. That's the very reason why wills are so important. A will speaks for the deceased, not you. Not you. A will speaks for the deceased. That's the very reason, again, let me say, that's the main reason why a will is so important. Because that will speaks for the deceased, the testator meaning a man, testatrix meaning a woman. But when there is no will, I'm still going to tell you, stop putting words in your mama mouth and your daddy mouth and whoever else's mouth. Because if you never had this conversation with them that everybody heard, what you're saying is hearsay. That's what you said, not them. I don't like when somebody come to me telling me, I know my mom. Well, that's what you know. That's what you think you know. If you can't prove it with a will or some type of video, some text messages to show me your parents' intent, I don't want to hear what you think. I don't. I don't want to hear what you think. Because, see, angry mouths will say anything. And let me say that again. An angry mouth or a jealous mouth will say anything to fit your narrative. And I said that I don't care who don't like what I say. I speak my own truth. I'm not one way on this microphone and another way in public. People who know me will tell you I've always been direct. I speak my truth. Whether you like it or not, I speak my truth. Every day people are dying. If the dirty police are not killing you, we killing each other. And next thing you know, now you have to be concerned about these corrupt judges in the probate court or whoever has been nominated. People, when there is no will, let me make sure I want you to understand me very clearly. When there is no will, make sure you know who you are nominating. I don't care if it's your brother or your sister or another family member, because you can legally nominate another family member that's not your brother or your sister, or even an outside person that's not even related to you. But by the same token, whoever you all nominate to be appointed by the probate judge, you better make sure that person is not in it for their own self-dealing or their own motives. You need to make sure they're talking to all of you, not one of you behind everybody else's back, not doing things they shouldn't be doing. And when it comes to an accounting, let me tell you all, an accounting is very important. An accounting is everything that's in the estate. You are entitled to get an accounting at least once a year after that person has been appointed by the probate court. If you have any questions about any money, any property or whatever, that person that has been nominated and appointed, just like if there was a will, they are required and obligated to tell you the truth about any and all assets in the estate. And when they file an accounting with you, it needs to address all of that. Let me say this to every last one of you, whether there's a will or not. Do not accept an accounting that has no verifiable documents, as far as receipts, bank statements, things like that. Don't take what these people say as facts because it's a lie. Take it from James Pitts, because that's what Pinky Toomer allowed Edward R. Downs Jr. and my cousin to do. Just tell her whatever they wanted to tell her. Let him file whatever he wanted to file as if though it was fact. No matter how many times I asked that trash can judge to get my mother's bank statements, she didn't. Then she had the nerve in one of her filings to say I wasn't entitled to the bank statements. Oh yes, and I got them. And people, I'm going to make it public soon. I've drafted a letter of complete disagreement. I showed Pinky Toomer everything she unlawfully did in my late mother's estate with case law to back it up. And I also filed a copy of the bank statements with it. Did I ever get a response from Pinky Toomer? No, not at all. That trash did not like the fact that James Pitts was not going to allow her to violate my late mother through Edward R. Downs Jr. and my cousin, James Boyd Wilburn. No, I was not. And I have no regrets today. Absolutely none. I wouldn't do anything differently today. Not a thing. I'm so glad that I'm a tough nail for them to hammer. Black people, it's bad enough that gentrification is the way it is against the black people. And people, I'm going to say even the rich black people are against you too. They want you out too. Don't get it twisted. Don't keep thinking it's always the white man or the racist white man. You got some black people that's got a little money. I don't care if they done borrowed it from the bank or whatever, or made a little money. They want you out too. They trying to gentrify you too. Don't get it twisted. I don't have no respect for anybody who can sit back and turn a blind eye to corruption in a court, in a police department, or anywhere else. On a city council, county government, I don't have any respect for you. And you're not going to get my respect immediately. You got to earn it. I have enough evidence and years. We're talking over 15 years worth of evidence against the Fulton County Courthouse that Fonnie Willis refuses to acknowledge, but she's going to have to acknowledge it coming up. I promise you that. She's going to have to acknowledge, because I'm going to talk about her publicly coming up. She's so busy trying to be cute every time she get on TV on the news. Ain't nothing cute about that trash. Nothing, in my opinion. She is as corrupt as the day is long. And when you want to talk about street gangs, that's a street gang right there at 136 Price Street. And she's a part of it. There on the difference between the actual street gangs in the street and what she do is that they're getting paid county money. That's the difference. That ain't no different with the police department and with the sheriff's department. See, people, your so-called elected officials, if you all notice, like I told you all, I don't vote. If you notice your elected officials, they're not changing. They're I would say they're creating new laws for us, against us. But if you notice, they're not creating no new laws to hold police officers accountable, judges accountable, and nothing else. But they got laws against us day in and day out. Everybody want to talk about how dangerous a gun is. Please, guns been dangerous since Jesus walked on water. A gun is not the problem. It never has been as far as I'm concerned, because anything can be made a weapon. You don't need a gun. And all Funny Willis talks about, or with the rest of this trash that calls themselves law enforcement, is street gangs. But she won't talk about that street gang at 136 Price Street that James Pitts knows very well. She won't talk about that. But I will, and I intend to publicly coming up. There is nobody that can tell me about Funny Willis or Sonia Allen and any other district attorney at Fulton, in the Fulton County District Attorney's office. And that also includes Paul Howard. That trash, period, was trash when he was in there. He's trash now. I don't have any respect for any of them. And people, let me also go further. You have the legal right to criticize elected officials. You have a legal right, and that's from the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay? The highest court in the land. And if you want to fact check James Pitts, feel free to Google, do I have the legal right to criticize elected officials? Feel free to read the case law too. I can do it. That's why I do it. It's not slander. It's not defamation. It's not libel. You know why? Because I can prove it. See, people, just like some of you have asked me, even, through emails, even on my social media sometimes, have I ever been sued for defamation? Please, I wish they would. I would love to get sued for allegedly defaming somebody. Because when I get to court, when I pull out these documents, when I say a person is corrupt, and when I show like legal documents that I drafted, and your email address is attached to it, and I never heard from you, and I'm reporting corruption, yeah. Where's the defamation at? Because see, people, for those of you who don't know, the only way somebody can win a defamation lawsuit against you is everything you say about them has to be a lie. And that won't happen with James Pitts. That won't happen with me. This ain't gonna be no Tasha K. Cardi B over here. I love to show up in a courtroom. Anything I say about these corrupt tyrants at 136 Price Street is facts, and I can back it up. And I'm about to show it publicly too coming up. Like I tell you all, you want to go to my blog at jamesisajeweler.blogspot.com? jamesisajeweler.blogspot.com. Feel free to go look at that first blog post. I have not even put a new blog post up there since I put this particular one that has documents attached to it. And it's talking about disbarred attorneys. Oh, I put bank statements up there, everything that you can download to your computer, to your phone. It's unedited. It's unredacted. Feel free to see it for what it is. I want the public to see it. Kenya Johnson, that no good, dirty probate court judge of Fulton County. Her last term is next year anyway. That woman deprived me of my day of to have him in court, to have Edward Downs Jr. in court, to hold him accountable for all the years of lies and theft in my late mother's estate. But that's okay, because his estate is getting ready to pay me well coming up. And I'm really also considering, even after that, suing his estate again. Just to make sure his law license is revoked. I'm looking to possibly sue his estate for the second time for the revocation of his law license, to make sure he is disbarred. And see, Judge Pam Ferguson is required. I didn't say option. I said required under Georgia Rule 2.15a and B. For 2.15a is for the judge, for another judge reporting a judge, but Rule 2.15b is for a lawyer. Once you have actual proof that a lawyer has violated the rules and ethics for being a lawyer, you got to report him. You're required to do that. Just like she's also required to report that trash Kenya Johnson for what she did too. Once we have that dealt with. See, people, don't tell me that a lawyer, like I've told you all, I've had lawyers tell me, oh, Edward R. Downs Jr. can't be disbarred because he's deceased. But you can't show me no proof of that though. See, when I ask these lawyers, I love challenging these trashy lawyers. These I would call them gang members too, some of them. Because you got some lawyers out here. They just like these police officers. They want to try to protect their own at all cost. When I ask a lawyer, prove to me that a lawyer can't be disbarred after their death for what they did when they were alive. I haven't yet gotten a lawyer send me nothing to prove that's wrong. But guess what, people? When I hit them with this right here, and you can look it up too. If you Google Florida attorney disbarred 1 year after her death, feel free to Google that. Florida attorney disbarred 1 year after her death. Now you tell me, and see everybody, this is a Florida attorney who was already under investigation before she died. Come to find out, she died while the investigation was going on. And because she did not respond to the Supreme Court of Florida, they disbarred her. Well, I guess her family must have got an attorney to try to file a motion to vacate her disbarment. Well, like I told you all 3 podcasts ago, before I spoke about this, I went and looked it up. She's still disbarred to this very day. She is still disbarred today. That lawyer is deceased and still disbarred today. So it doesn't make a difference whether or not you are dead. You are disbarred. And that's exactly what I intend to make sure happens to Edward R. Downs Jr. I'm not begging anybody to do what Georgia law says is supposed to happen. And see, people, the Supreme Court of Georgia, and I've already read case law to you all. I've read opinions of the Supreme Court of Georgia when they have disbarred attorneys. They said, we have little tolerance for lawyers who make false statements. And the recommendation is disbarment. See, you can't go around because you're a lawyer thinking that you can lie to people, lie to a tribunal. But see, the State Bar of Georgia, they allow Edward R. Downs Jr. to lie to them. I even asked the State Bar of Georgia to make that man file bank statements, and they didn't. I'm considering suing the State Bar of Georgia too. Once I'm done in Clayton County, suing his estate, because I'm going to have a very strong lawsuit against them. I'm strongly considering suing the State Bar of Georgia because you could have stopped that liar and that thief in 2011, the first time I reported him. They never even asked this man about an attorney trust account, which legally he was supposed to have. But he didn't. He didn't have that. But you in my mother's bank account a day before her funeral, stealing her money and lying about it. Once I filed a letter with the probate court, people out, for those of you, because there may be some new people looking at my podcast, let me tell you what Edward R. Downs Jr. told Pinky Toomer in one of his filings. The first filing, when I even first found out he was representing my cousin, I filed a letter on April 9th, 2008, reporting my suspicion that my mother's money had been stolen because bank statements came to her house, and I got them. And that's what prompted me to file a letter with the probate court. Well, around June 7th of 2008, I get a letter in the mail, manila envelope. It was a motion to litigate caveats to will pending the appointment of James B. Wilburn. That, of course, James B. Wilburn is my cousin. It was Edward R. Downs Jr. who drafted this mess. Well, people, when I started reading it, he basically denied everything in my letter to the court. But he also said this concerning my mother's money. He placed my mother's money in a much safer place in Bank of America pending his client's appointment as executor. Let me say that again. He placed my mother's money in a much safer place in Bank of America pending his client's appointment as executor. Well, people, under the law, if an attorney puts their hands on any property of his client, his or her client, that money or property is supposed to be put in an attorney trust account. Edward R. Downs Jr. did not do that. The penalty for not doing that, people, is automatic. What? By a show of hands, people, disbarment. I've read opinions about that on my show. If you are required, an attorney is required to open an attorney trust account when it comes to money, property, or anything else of an estate or anything dealing with his client. He didn't do that. That's grounds for disbarment. I cannot wait to get this resolved in Clayton County, because when I go public with all these documents from Clayton County, it's going to be the catalyst for my lawsuit against the Fulton County Probate Court coming up too, as well as the State Bar of Georgia, because I'm telling you people, I'm considering suing the State Bar of Georgia because I reported Edward R. Downs Jr. in 2020 as well. And they had the nerve to tell me, that's when I filed the bank statements with them. They never looked at them, and I can prove they never looked at them. See, here's what's going to be the catalyst for my lawsuit against the State Bar of Georgia if I sue them, which I'm strongly considering it. When Judge Pam Ferguson looks at my bank statements and looks at the lies that Edward R. Downs Jr. told the Fulton County Probate Court, the trash can major that used to be an Atlanta police major, the no good, low class, dirty State Bar of Georgia, when she gives me my judgment against his estate, that right there will solidify my lawsuit against everybody else, because every other entity could have done the same thing, and you didn't. I look forward to it. See, I'm not just doing this for my late mother and I. I'm doing this for those who have come before me, as well as those who are coming behind me. I want you to know you can win. Don't get caught up in the nonsense. Don't let a black robe scare you. Because I'm telling you, I've said many times on this podcast, I'm not afraid of anybody at 136 Prior Street. Nobody. Never have been, never will be. You're the corrupt tyrants, not James Pitts. You thought you were going to shut me down. You thought you were going to make me accept your good boy network. You thought you were going to make me accept lies, false documents, theft in my late mother's estate, and I did not. And I never will. And if you do it to anybody else that I know of, I'm going to make sure that you are exposed. That is very important. Heirs and beneficiaries of estates. Listen to me, and listen to me very good. A will only means this. And I don't care what no probate attorney tells you, or no estate attorney, which is the same thing. I don't care what they tell you. A will don't do nothing but one thing. It lets everybody knows who gets what. That is all. And you better respect it. I'm telling you, you better respect it. And the only way you can change the terms of a will, number one, you must be an interested party in that will, meaning your name must be in that will. Number two, everybody has to agree. As I've already read to you all, case law concerning the family harmony doctrine. Everybody has to agree, because when everybody agrees, you don't need the court's permission or the approval of a probate court judge. That's what the Supreme Court of Georgia said. I don't care nothing about what no lower court. That goes for a probate judge too. I go by what the highest court in Georgia said in their own case law. Just like I go by what the U.S. Supreme Court has said in their own case law. And for people that don't know this, even when it comes to U.S. Supreme Court precedent, that spans all 50 states. All 50 states, not just in Georgia. The testator's intent must prevail. That means what that will says, it must prevail. And they say time and time again, we must read the four corners of the will to ascertain the testator or the testatrix's intent. What they mean when they say that, They mean we read from left to right, top to bottom, page to page, to ascertain what your mother said, what your father said, or anybody else with the will said. When they said, I give, bequeath, and devise all my real property or a house or a car to a certain person, that means I want that person to have it. And even if it's a balance owed on that property, they don't care. They don't care. That becomes the responsibility of whoever they want to have it now. They deal with that now. No personal representative have no business talking about, well, my mama owed $10,000 on the house. That the law don't care nothing about that. We deed that house over to who they want to have it. You let that person deal with that $10,000 balance on that house, but that house belongs to who your mother said owns it now. That goes for a car. It belongs to that person, not you. You don't get to deprive anybody of what your parents or anybody else with a will has said they want somebody to have. And that's one thing I'm going to bring a lot of attention to coming up. For some strange reason in the black community, you got a bad habit of thinking that you can just deprive other people of what somebody want them to have. And you can't legally do that. And black people, stop giving up. I just give up. I just gave up on it because the judge this and that. Listen, get your strength from James Pitts. It ain't a judge at 136 Pride Street going to deprive me of nothing that somebody said that I own that's owed to me. Not one. And if you do, your judicial immunity is about to be challenged because I'm going to sue you. You don't get to deprive me of nothing that somebody has willed to me. Nobody. A lot of you sit back and you'll fight everybody in the street, but you won't fight against corrupt tyrants in a courthouse. You won't get legally educated. You won't stand up to corruption. See, I don't do all that marching. I couldn't care less about. I'm not marching for nothing. I get to work. I go after corruption. I stand up to these people directly. I don't need to march. And I'm never going to march. It gets you nowhere. If you're not doing the work, it's a waste of time. If you don't have a will, let me discuss that too. What makes a will legal in Georgia? As long as written, it can be handwritten, but people. And you can also get somebody else to sign on your behalf as well. You can legally have somebody else sign your name to a will. But let me tell you something about that as well. You need to have 2 witnesses and a notary as well. And don't get your 2 witnesses better not be somebody that you put in that will to be a beneficiary of that will, of your estate. Your witnesses need to be uninterested, meaning you have not left them nothing and you are not paying them nothing. Your children don't need to be the witnesses to your will signing. Get 2 uninterested people. Don't use anybody whose name you put in your will to inherit from your estate. And also, when it comes to a notary, make sure that you are before a notary. Because just in the event somebody say, that's not my mama's signature, that's not my daddy's signature, and they go get a document that you done signed 7 years ago. See, that creates doubt. But that's why when it comes to a will, what makes a will legal in Georgia, it can be typed or it can be handwritten. And there is no statutory form for a will. Hell, you can put up at the top, last will and testament. You can just say in there, you can write in there, I so-and-so give my dog to my next door neighbor. You name that next door neighbor. You can even put their address in if you want to. Or I give my house to my daughter. Name her. And there you go. But you need to make sure you have 2 witnesses and it notarized. That's what makes a will legal in Georgia. And if you want to fact check James Pitts, feel free to get on Google and Google what makes a will valid in the state of Georgia or in Georgia. What makes a will valid in Georgia? And read what it says. Like I tell you all, I've been doing this for over 15 years. When I give my legal advice, my pro se legal advice, it's the facts, not fiction. And I don't care who don't like it. That goes for anybody at 136 Prior Street. I'm going to give my legal advice because I have a case. That very address is the reason why I have this podcast today. Because of the corruption of the Fulton County Probate Court, the Fulton County Magistrate Court, the Fulton County Superior Court, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. That's the reason why I'm on this microphone today, exposing the corruption. And I don't care nothing about Fonnie Willis, Kenya Johnson, Patrick Labatt, none of that other trash down there. I don't care nothing about it. I call you out by name because I have documents on you. And Patrick Labatt, you know, I got text message with you and I when I reported Leon Gates and Mark A. Grant to you about them telling lies on me. And come to find out, Leon Gates is also co-conspiring with another judge, I found out. And somebody's getting ready to sue. I don't know if this person is suing Fulton County right now or not. I'm still trying to find that out. But yeah, Leon Gates has a history of co-conspiring with Shade Tree judges in the Fulton County Courthouse. In the Superior Court. I'm going to be talking about him a lot coming up. Him and Mark A. Grant. Liars. Straight up liars. And Patrick Labatt, he basically protects them. But you can't. One thing you can't protect them from is this mouth right here and me exposing them. See, I love the exposure that I'm going to give you. You need to be fired. And I can't wait till next year when a lot of your terms are up. People do not vote for Kenya Johnson, Patrick Labatt, and I've had so many people already say they're not going to, if Fonnie Willis runs again, they're not going to vote for her. I don't blame you. She's trash. Trash. I've never seen a district attorney like her that's always recusing herself. That's anything that's police related. That's a police-friendly prosecutor. Kenya Johnson Kenya Johnson used to be a magistrate court solicitor. She's not a probate judge. A probate lawyer. She used to be a solicitor in the magistrate court of Fulton County. She want to be a celebrity so bad. She done been on a few little shows or whatever. Please, that woman is trash. Trash. And Fonnie Willis, she want to be listen, people, don't get it twisted. Fonnie Willis is going to come up with an indictment on Donald Trump. But see, now, for those of you out there who have children who got killed by the police or children who got killed by somebody else and y'all still waiting to go to court and Fonnie Willis ain't studying you, you can vote her out. Vote her out. That go for that trash, that mayor of Atlanta too. Vote him out. See, I'm telling you, that mayor of that Love and Hip Hop Atlanta mayor, Andre Dickens, he's trying to create a legacy for himself. That man don't care nothing about how y'all feel about Cop City. They don't need for more training. For more training? Come on now. That man he's trying to build his own resume using his position as the mayor. He don't even come in your neighborhoods to see what's going on with you. And all this mess he trying to do, it's all for political ops. He wants to have midnight basketball. Criminals don't give a damn about no basketball. A criminal don't care nothing about no basketball game. They don't care. Don't get it twisted, people. Stop being led and start leading yourself. Stop putting your faith in these elected officials. I don't vote, never will vote. I have never been a registered voter in the state of Georgia, and I never will be. I have absolutely no reason to vote for corrupt tyrants at all. Because when it comes to black people that's elected, only thing they want is a check and a title. And to be able to think they're better than you. That's all they want to do. I don't care who I offend with my facts. I sit back and watch it. And before my time is up, if anybody want to call in on my show, the number here is 470-708-1833. Again, 470-708-1833. I don't speak from what I believe. I'm going to give you my real truth. I don't want any heirs of estates or beneficiaries of estates to have to live through what I went through. And trust me, people, don't feel sorry for James Pitts, because I'm telling you, I'm going to reap all the benefits of all my years of hard work in defense of my late mother. And I'm going to make sure all of my hard work on behalf of my late mother and I is recognized and publicized, because I intend to help as many people as possible. There are no resources for pro se litigants. And people, when I hear people say, don't represent yourself, a fool who represents himself. No, a person who represents themselves has a fool for something, how that little mess goes. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'll never be a fool for nobody. You have a right to represent yourself. And first and foremost, in probate court, whether you have a will or not, there is no legal requirement that you have a lawyer. In probate court, there is no legal requirement, whether there's a will or not. But I'm going to tell any and every last one of you, if you're going to do what James Pitts has done, and I've done very well, and whether the probate court of Fulton County, any other court in Fulton County, whether they like it or not, they can't do nothing but agree with me. I've handled my mother's estate very well. I don't need an applause. I don't need a pat on the back, because I'm telling you all, the truth is getting ready to come out big time. Big time. And I'm going to publicize everything. Any heirs of estates, do not allow a probate court judge to tell you what you're not entitled to when Georgia law says you are. Do not allow that. And as I told you all, if a judge violates you, get in contact with a civil rights attorney. And also, as I told you all, when it comes to Kenya Johnson, she likes to use superior court judges to try to get cases kicked out of probate court. That's against the law. If you file any documents in the Fulton County Probate Court and that trash Kenya Johnson has a superior court judge mail you anything concerning your case, disregard it. Let me tell you what you do. Get you a civil rights attorney and sue that judge and Kenya Johnson. I'm going to tell you why. See, that's how you get a judge. If a judge lacks subject matter jurisdiction upon you, you got him. Google it. You want to know how to sue a judge? If a judge violates you using unlawful subject matter jurisdiction, you can sue them for monetary damages. That's the very thing that's going on with me with that trash in Cobb County. He had no subject matter jurisdiction to tell the Fulton County Probate Court to do nothing on behalf of my mother's estate. My mother didn't live in Cobb County, and she didn't die in Cobb County. And James Pitts has never filed a document in the Cobb County courthouse. That goes for the probate court of Cobb County, the superior court of Cobb County, the magistrate court of Cobb County. James Pitts has never filed. Matter of fact, James Pitts or his late mother has never stepped foot in the Cobb County courthouse. And I know for a fact my mother has never been in the Cobb County courthouse. Neither my father. I know that for a fact. So I'm not worried about what somebody has to say when it comes down to how well versed I am in estate law. I'm going to stand up for mine. Trust that. I don't believe nothing a judge has to say. If I have any doubts about what a judge has to say, I go and get my case law. I go pull case law. I don't read one case. I read 5, 6, 7, 8 cases. And then not only do I read Georgia case law, I go all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, the U.S. Court of Appeals, things like that. See, I want to see what the highest court in the land has to say, even in other states, about the very same topic that I'm trying to get information on. And it has never failed me. It has never failed me. And when you have a lawyer tell you, well, is it Georgia law? It don't have to be. U.S. Supreme Court don't have to be Georgia law. U.S. Supreme Court is the law of the land. Just like when the Supreme Court of Georgia speaks, that speaks for every lower court in Georgia. That goes for the Court of Appeals, the 11th Circuit, as well the federal court, and any of the lower courts, the Superior Court, the Probate Court, the Magistrate Court. The Supreme Court of Georgia is the highest court in Georgia. People, they can't stand, like my probate attorney who taught me estate law used to say to me, Mr. Pitts, judges and lawyers don't like people like you that has a sense of the law. And he would always say to me, I'm going to teach you what you need to know. You're going to be a very strong pro se litigant. Don't use what I'm teaching you to harm anybody. But you state within the law, is what he would say to me. And I'm so glad that I've learned the state law. Nobody can tell me nothing. Nothing when it comes to a state law. Absolutely nothing. I'll listen to a probate attorney, especially one that taught me a state law, but any other state attorney. And I've had some, like I told you, I've had some to contact me. I've had to shut them down, especially when they try to tell me what my cousin had the right to do even when he wasn't appointed. How the hell you gonna tell me that my cousin had the right to go? He's illiterate. He can't even read. I never knew he couldn't read. I don't even think my mother knew he couldn't read. But how you gonna tell me what even the Supreme Court of Georgia says you cannot do? How you gonna tell me this man had the right to go to a bank with unlawful papers with a lawyer to remove my mother's money? Are you out of your mind? But you can't never show. When I say prove it, show me some case law. Never get it. I never get case law from them. Never. Not even no statutes. I never get nothing from them. You know why? Because what they're so busy trying to do is protect the legacy of Edward R. Downs Jr. I know how the game works. That's just like a family member. You want to try to protect the legacy of your brother or your sister. Well, I'm a little different. If I know my brother ain't no good, I'm not going to protect him. If I know he's no good, I'm gonna let you know he's no good. Just like my own cousin, he's trash. He is no good, and he knows to stay away from me. If I never saw him again in this lifetime, it wouldn't make a difference to me. I don't even consider him family to me anymore. At all. Stop coveting and protecting people you know are corrupt, because that says a lot about you. And when I hear some people say, I'm with you right or wrong, I'm not. If you're right, I'll stand with you. But if you're wrong, I'm going to check you. That's me. And I don't care if you don't like it. As long as you're right, yeah, I'll stand with you. But when I know you're wrong, oh yeah, I'm going to have to check you. I'm going to call you out. Family, friend, don't matter. I'm going to call you out. And that's the same thing I would want in return. That's the problem with a lot of us today. You don't want to be held accountable. You want to hold everybody else accountable, but you don't want to be held accountable. And that's a problem. I think everybody should be held accountable when you need to be held accountable. Don't matter who you are. I don't care how much money you have or don't have. I don't care what your title is. If you're right, you're right. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. And you need to be called out. Death is something that is happening every day. Can you imagine, just like that submarine that done blew up? Can you imagine that? That submarine is blown up. Billionaires on this submarine. Can you imagine what those estates are going to be like? Can you imagine all that money has now imploded in the ground, in the water? Now, can you imagine all these billions of dollars these people had that was on that ship or that submarine? Can you imagine that? Now, can you just imagine how those estates are going to be? It's going to be something. It's going to be something. But that's the way it is now. But I can assure you, ain't going to be, I promise you, when it comes to the rich people, You don't hear about no judges being corrupt and doing all that kind of mess to them. But the corruption is in Fulton County, and James Pitts is certainly going to expose it. And anybody who lives in Fulton County, whether your parents had a will or whether you have a will or not, it don't make a difference. The biggest thing that needs to be said and understood is that you don't allow no judge, no personal representative to deprive you of what is legally yours by law, by statutory law. And I said it once, I'm going to say it again. When there is no will, all estate property, all assets of the estate automatically vest into the heirs of the estate until somebody has been nominated and appointed to distribute those assets. That's the law. Google it. Feel free to fact check James Pitts. Feel free to do so. And I'm going to say one more time. When there is no will, in order for somebody to be nominated and appointed, first of all, you don't need a petition to be nominated. All that takes is, let's just say you got 3 or 4 brothers and sisters. Everybody may say, I want brother A to be you. I nominate brother A to be the personal representative of the estate. If everybody else agrees, and see, when there is no will, majority rule. It could be 5 of you all. If 3 of you all nominate this person along with this person nominating themselves, guess what? If they are fit to be the person representative, they're going to be appointed by the court. See, the law don't care about your feelings. The law does not care about any of our feelings. If this person has majority rule, if the majority of the heirs of the estate has nominated this person, and this person can also nominate themselves too. So if the majority of the heirs of the estate has nominated this person to be the personal representative of the estate, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be appointed by the probate court. But even if you get appointed, you are required to act in good faith on behalf of all interested parties of the estate. No self-dealing, no behind your back doing nothing against the heirs of the estate. You got to do what's right. Not for your benefit, but for the benefit of the heirs of the estate and the decedent. That's how it works. And that's not what's going on in Fulton County. And people, I don't care who probably went to court and had a great time and nothing happened to you. I don't care nothing about that. I am a person it didn't happen like that for. And I know to other people it didn't happen like that for. And that's all I care about. You can say whatever you want to say to make these people look good, but I have documentation to say otherwise. I've had it for years and about to have even more. When there is no will, people, what you must do is nominate somebody, or everybody can nominate yourselves, but you got to file a petition for letters of administration in order for somebody to become the personal representative of the estate. Again, you got to get a petition for letters of administration. You can also Google that too. There are sample petitions online. It's just Google Georgia petition for letters of administration. You can download it to your computer. You can download it to your phone, but then you can go, print it out. Fill it out, go file it in the probate court, pay the fees. And as I was saying too, let me make sure you understand, there is common form and solemn form. Common form means you don't have to serve all the interested parties of the estate. Solemn forms mean you must. And I will tell you, you need to serve all interested parties of the estate. Stay away from that common form. You need to serve all interested parties of the estate. They have a right to know that you are filing a petition for letters of administration. They don't need to find out after the fact. Always notify all interested parties, even when it comes to a will. And let me say this to you all about a will. When a will has been filed in the probate court, you are supposed to be served by the deputy of the county or even the sheriff of the county. People, when the deputy come and serve you with a petition to probate a will in solemn form, make sure the will is attached to that document. That is required in Georgia. make sure that a copy of that will is attached to that petition to probate your late parent's will in solemn form. If it's not, don't sign nothing. You tell that deputy, take it back, bring it back with a copy of the will, because that's a requirement. You have a right to have a copy of that will, even if you got a copy of the will already. Don't matter. When a person probates your parent's will in solemn form, you are supposed to be served with a copy of it, and with that petition to probate your parent's will in solemn form, a copy of that will is supposed to be attached to it as well. If it's not, don't sign your name on nothing. Tell that deputy or that sheriff to take it back to the probate court and ask them to attach a copy of the will to it. And then you can bring it back and be served with it. But until then, you're not going to sign, because that's required. And if you don't believe me, Google it. Is a copy of you can just go on Google and put in Georgia, is a copy of the will required to be attached to a petition to probate a will in solemn form? Let me say that again. Go to Google and put in Georgia, is a petition, is a copy of a will supposed to be attached to a petition to probate a will in solemn form? Now look at it. Like I tell you, I've been doing this for many years. Dealing with my late mother's estate and the corruption in my late mother's estate. See, that's what the Fulton County Probate Court can't stand about James Pitts. Like the Superior Court. They can't stand the fact that James Pitts is not afraid to fight corruption and call names in the process. I'm going to continue doing that, even after I clear up my late mother's estate case in Clayton County. Because there are too many people getting deprived of what's legally yours. And I'm going to show you how to get what's yours the legal way. It's time to start getting these tyrants off the bench, taking their law licenses, removing them from the bench, and getting them fired and getting them prosecuted. Because, see, people, when it comes to a lawyer / judge, just like the U.S. Supreme Court said, when you are a lawyer, you have no excuse for ignorance of the law, especially when you're a lawyer. So don't give me this nonsense about judicial immunity and this, that, and the other. You know what you're doing from that bench. You don't even have to be a lawyer to know when you're violating somebody or when you're violating the law. You know what you're doing. And you're not accustomed to somebody like James Pitts standing up to your corruption and calling you out by name. But you better get used to it, because it's only going to get better with me, because I'm going to call out even more names. I'm going to put a face on the corruption at 136 Prior Street for sure. It's long overdue. I could only imagine what Pinky Toomer was doing in that probate court before my mother died in 2008. I wonder how many more people that Pinky Toomer has allowed to be deprived of what their parents left them, whether there was a will or not. I definitely intend to find out. That woman's law license needs to be revoked, right along with Edward R. Downs Jr.'s. You should never be allowed to sit on another bench in a courthouse anywhere. Nothing but corrupt trash. And I said that. And then you have the nerve in 2017 to co-conspire with two no-good, dirty, trash can Fulton County deputies and a dirty, no-good executive director for the Council for Probate Court Judges, Kevin Holder, Pinky Toomer, talking about I threatened to shoot you. When? But you never showed up at my bond hearing. You never showed up in court from March of 2017 all the way up to June 26, 2018, when my case was dismissed in my favor due to no factual basis of the indictment. And Paul Howard, when I caught you at that county commissioner's meeting, I'm going to try my best to get that video. When I caught you at that county commissioner's meeting, Paul Howard, remember? When I confronted you and I spoke loud too. I said, Paul Howard, you know I was arrested You're going to have the nerve to tell me you knew nothing about it, Paul Howard. You dirty, no good 4-hour troll. You know your name was on that indictment. But yet you denied ever knowing that I was arrested. Paul Howard. See, again, people, corruption knows no bounds in Fulton County. And see, Patrick Labatt right now, he's trying his best to save his job. He just got into it with the county commissioners because he wants some money. He wants more money to fix up the jail. Man, you've been at that jail at 901 Rice Street since 2021 in January. You didn't care nothing about how that jail looked when you first took office. But one thing is for sure, you can't make up no lies concerning that man who died in that jail cell. It makes me wonder, what do you do on a daily basis? Patrick Labatt. People, vote him out. Vote out Kenya Johnson, Fonnie Willis, Patrick Labatt, Andre Dickens. Vote them all out. And that go for the city council too. Get out. A lot of them people in the city council need to go. They've been there too long. Just like on the county commissioners board. Get them off. Vote them out. It's time to get rid of these people. They are career trash can people. They don't care nothing about you. They don't care nothing about you. Well, people, it's 5:55 p.m. in the afternoon. And before my time is up for this afternoon, I want to let you know that when you want to contact James Pitts, my direct phone number is 404-447-5459. Again, 404-447-5459. I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/James is a jeweler. Again, /Facebook.com/James is a jeweler. I'm also on Instagram at Instagram.com/James is a jeweler. People, I created this podcast to expose corruption in the Fulton County Probate Court, the Fulton County Superior Court, the Fulton County Magistrate Court, the Fulton County Government, and the City of Atlanta Government, and the Atlanta Police Department and the Sheriff's Department. They're all corrupt. I said it. I don't care how they feel about what I said. I said it. I got the proof to back it up. And soon, people, I'm going to be talking to people who've been affected by the crime in Georgia. People who've been murdered with, gun violence, other different things like that. It's time to bring a face to these elected officials that you all vote for. That's why I want to start talking to some of these grieving families. I need to know why y'all voting for these people who don't care nothing about you. I need to know. I really need to know. Because a curfew, people say what you want to say about a curfew. These kids don't care nothing about no curfew. If somebody's going to shoot and kill somebody, they can do that between 8 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock in the afternoon, or 8 o'clock in the afternoon. When did crime have a time limit? When? That curfew means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. They're so busy trying to put more laws on and then to say a parent should be arrested because you can't keep your child in the house. Because of course you can't whip your children. But they can. See, you can't whip your children, but the police can kill your children. Make it make sense. But the police can put their knees on your children's neck, throw your kids down on the ground. You can't do that. If you put your hands on your child, you going to jail. But the police can do your child or you any way they want to. Make it make sense, people. Make it make sense. And y'all vote, like I said, you all keep voting for these people who have nothing to do with you. They don't have your best interest at heart at all. Out of all these laws that they draft and pass, you don't see no laws holding police officers accountable. You don't see no laws holding judges accountable for what they do to you. You don't see no laws holding anybody that has qualified immunity or judicial immunity accountable. All the laws are for us. For us, private citizens. But not them. Not the people you vote for. Us, private citizens. Stop doing it, people. Stop doing it. Well, everybody, it's now 5:59 p.m. this afternoon. You have been listening to Fulton County Exposed with your host, James Pitts, on BODradio.com. And of course, I will be back here next Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. on BODradio.com to give you more of my views and opinions that's going on at the Fulton County Probate Court, Superior Court, Magistrate Court, just Fulton County, period. But get ready for some of these interviews I'm going to be doing coming up. It's time to put a face on corruption. Everybody, I want you all to have a good afternoon.